Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about spirituality, and I want to actually bring forth an experience of my journey along this spiritual path. It's actually an important topic. I've been actually moving through some things this week and came to some revelations overnight. And it's all connected, so I think it's a great message to help us through these times at the moment. One, so that we stay connected to love and not fear. That's probably the key to this message, but I'm going to share it through personal experience and put it all into context of what it looks like to be compassionate and to be forgiving, because it's not always easy. And so with that, I'm going to share some experiences, a particular experience with the underworld, which connects into a previous video I did in relation to psychic attack and psychic attack within our spiritual community. So it taps into that video. I probably really only briefly chatted about that because that was more about the importance of protection and discernment with who we allow to do particular healings on us, that we really do 100% need to know that the people that perhaps offer us our healings, that they are not wolves in sheep's clothing, as it was for me. So this topic I'm going to share about a lot deeper about my experience with the underworld and closing down a really toxic network of darkness, which is all connected to this experience that we're seeing unfolding in relation to or associated with Epstein files, where there is much coming to light about much deceit and harm that has come to particularly women and children. So the reason why I'm sharing this is because I'm on a forever expanding path of my own spirituality and growing within myself as soul to always be, I guess, the highest version of myself, to reach the highest timelines I can for myself in this lifetime. So that not everyone wants to do that, I get that, but this is my path. Excuse me, I'm all croaky today because my body's actually quite fatigued. I feel like I've got heart activations happening. I've been nauseated last night and all of this morning. This whole week I've felt quite drained in energy, and so I know my body, all of my bodies are going through, I guess, I don't know, upgrades, activations, increasing in light, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so why do I feel the need to share this? Well, one, I feel I'm actually encouraged to share it because I did do the video. I already recorded a video and I kind of, wasn't happy with it. And so I deleted it, and then I heard, no, do the video. So I'm like, yeah, okay, it is an important message because this is actually grassroots, okay? As in, I'm bringing forth real grassroots level that I see majority of us are at. Grassroots in the sense that I'm here on my journey, and there are many people way back here on their journey, but where I am, there's many people before me that have walked the path even longer than I have, that have greater wisdom than I do. But I have the wisdom, and the wisdom that I see that they're bringing forth is really high level stuff. It's the stuff that I need to keep pulling me forward on my path, or drawing me forward along my path. And I'm the person where I am in my teachings that kind of is just a bit more, having more grounded experiences, if that's the right way to kind of explain it. So what I want to share, because some of this stuff I actually didn't understand until today, the revelations came through. You have to excuse me, I'm going to turn the stove off. And so I want to talk about the importance of not losing our connection to love. And this the first understanding of this within myself came to me a few months back, many months back actually, in relation to grief and loss. So I won't go into why that is, but it's actually a very important part of the, it's a very important part to understand through grief and loss, that we don't lose our connection to loss. And I kind of spoke about this in one other video, but I feel I will come back to that. So on my journey, I have been receiving dreams connected to the underworld. I actually didn't understand why I was seeing certain things that I was seeing, that was connected to this underworld where children are trapped. And I really didn't understand. This actually has come in a few times, and it's come up again of this recent weeks. And I was trying to understand, okay, what do I need to know about this? Why is this being shown to me? I understand I'm okay with the underworld, as in I have a high level of respect because of an experience that I went through. And so this is what I want to talk about today, because it's actually connected to everything that's unfolding around us in the world now. This dark web of deceit, lies, and abuse. It is the abuse of power. In a nutshell, the abuse where people have abused their positions of power for their greater good, and it's created this dark web. So I had been seeing these videos and trying to work out why this was coming again to light. And then I found myself this week. So one thing I do is on my path, because I'm a truth seeker, I always commune with my higher self, and I ask my higher self to show me the truth. When I don't understand something that I'm trying to work out why I'm being shown something, especially in my dreams. My dreams is one of my strongest points to receive messages from spirit. And so I asked my higher self to show me the truth, but I also asked the masters that I felt could assist me in this knowing, this understanding, to also bring the truth forward. And every time the truth comes forward, it will be shown to me through a video, or something comes across my path, and then I'm like, oh, what's this all about? And then I start reading and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So then I found myself this week watching some videos connected to Epstein and Veronica, the trafficking that Veronica, I can't remember her surname, where she found herself in this dark web of just, yeah, sexual abuse and all the sorts and all the trafficking, and this dark web that many of these leaders that are a part of. So it's all, everything that I'm seeing is connected to this. So this is what I want to try to explain, because it's important to know about this in the context of being able to find unconditional love for these people and having compassion and forgiveness for the choices they have made. Now that's really hard to accept, I know. So this is what I want to share. So I asked for the truth. Next thing, because I don't watch a lot of stuff going on in media, there's no point. I don't need to go down the rabbit hole and just keep allowing my eyes to witness such atrocities, because that can keep you spiraling deeper into hate and suffering and anger and frustration and all the sorts, depending what brings up for you watching these videos and information coming through social media. So I then found myself one night this week watching 3 or 4 videos, one after the other, connected to Epstein and Veronica and her story. And by the final story, which was about her taking her life, April, I think it was, of last year, it just broke my heart. This poor woman, bloody hell, what she had gone through from a child. She just couldn't take a break, even though she broke from Epstein's web, only to find herself, when she thought she was finally had a break and got a lucky break, she found herself in a web of domestic violence, which ended up, she took her life from. To be honest, I don't even know how she lasted that long. But anyway, so my heart was broken. It was, and for me to get to the truth of what I was seeking the truth in, understanding the underworld, this was actually brought to me. Even though I don't normally watch these stories, I don't need to. I know what's going on. This I had to see. And so it triggered me with the level of abuse against women, because I feel my life, I've had enough share, not to this level, but I've had enough share of enough of my own taste of pain and suffering connected to men that abuse their position of power. And so I cried at the end of this video. I was at a loss, because in my spiritual path and understandings, I'm a person of unconditional love. That's one thing that I know who I am. The truth of who I am is I am unconditional love. And I've only really come into that full knowing. Well, it's being reminded to me still to this day, but only of the past year, that I am unconditional love. And it reflects in how I've responded to my experiences, because I've always, no matter what hurt or harm that was deemed done to me, all of these people were my teachers that were where my self was guiding me. This is what gets people, that I had actually instigated as soul for my soul path, so that I could evolve and reach a higher level of consciousness. But I think I'm here to be a great example of unconditional love, compassion and forgiveness. It's all I've ever been. Hasn't been easy, And so I was at the end of this video trying to comprehend, how do you have unconditional love for people that create such atrocities? And I couldn't see it. I literally said to Yeshua, I can't see this. I can't see how I can actually have unconditional love for these people. Here, I felt Epstein was dead, felt in some ways perhaps justice wasn't served. And that didn't sit well with me. And so I'm like, what am I missing? There's something that I just don't get. So what am I missing? What is all this about? Is this all true? You know, is there actually a God? Is there, higher powers? Like, seriously, like, and so I said, show me the truth. I said, show me the truth. I really need to know. And the thing is, that always comes forward for me because I honestly do want to know. I want to know the truth so I know how to walk forward in this life. Simple. And so then the next day, I was actually unsettled, actually. I was unsettled that whole night. It actually really brought in some toxic energy into my body. I don't do well because I'm highly sensitive. That's generally another reason why I don't watch these things, because I know it can actually affect me, but I've got the skills to be able to work through it. So I was actually quite unsettled. I actually had to listen to sound healing most of the night, just playing in the background, trying to just sort of recalibrate my body, my chakras, and etc. I woke up unsettled, and so I'd asked to be shown the truth. And then there was this video that came on from someone that I actually do follow, who brings through amazing people doing such amazing work. And they're, much further along the path than I am. So I was just like, my ears pricked straight away when I heard what was initially being said. And wow, I couldn't believe the information that was coming through. So they actually explained more about the underworld, they were actually talking to what I had seen in my dreams. And so I was obviously really curious to learn more, because what did they know that I didn't know? What could they tell me that could help me with this one experience of needing to find compassion and forgiveness for these people that have created these atrocities? And so, wow, brought through much confirmation, but wow. And I thought that was all the confirmation I needed, but overnight last night, so much more came to light for me. And where I was reminded, I actually woke so early seeing this, and I was reminded of my experience that I had with the underworld going back 3 or 4 years ago, which is connected to this previous video I did on psychic attack and people in spiritual communities that there are, and probably a lot more now, that are wolves in sheep clothing, pretending to be, these beautiful souls, doing the journey and being truthful and honest, and yet they have an underlying connection to this underworld to actually just create further destruction. And so this particular person that I came across in this community was actually trying to lure me without me knowing into this underworld to actually disconnect my heart and disconnect myself from my soul and from love, to put me in fear. But little did they know how strong I was. So it's actually really interesting, but I actually didn't know some stuff until today about that experience. And there's a couple of things with that, because one, I actually didn't know the level of my soul that was actually working at the time in that moment. I didn't realize the level of the power that I had. that I hear often spoken, how powerful we are as soul. And yep, so I got shown that today. And so let's go back to this story with the underworld. So this particular person actually brought through my gifts and talents that I didn't know I had. So I had a person when I was still in grief, tail end of it, but I was still moving through prolonged grief at this point, from how my grief was silenced due to stigma and stuff. And so I was actually working through some prolonged grief. And so I was still actually quite vulnerable. I was still overreactive with heightened nervous system, still trying to regulate that nervous system. And I was very trusting because I was so eager and desiring to learn of all of these other beings that were visiting me. Yeshua, Kali Ma, Portia, who else was there? Hilarion. These are the beings. I've never heard of these people. Melchizedek. I've never heard any of these beings. And so I was actually super curious. And this was when my intuition was just really awakening. I was really just getting online. I was seeing things I couldn't communicate, in the sense I didn't understand because I didn't believe that there was a God. I literally walked away from any belief that there was a God. And so through all of my grief and all of this kind of journey of coming online, so to speak, that's how I see it. I was coming online. My intuition abilities were waking up. I was willing, I was curious. And so this person seemed to have lots of information that they wanted to share, and I thought they seemed a wealth of information. They were well liked, or appeared to be well liked in the community, and I actually didn't really have any I didn't really have big concerns initially. There wasn't really big warning signs. And I was a person that was, I would say, naive, overly trusting, in a place of vulnerability, and didn't know how to discern very well people's true motives. Anyway, this person ended up opening up many portals on my land that got to a point that it was so toxic, and these entities were starting to really take over, as in my life and things that were happening on my property, near misses with trees falling down, lots of interference with internet and lights, coming into my dreams like really violently, trying to, I'll just leave it there. There was other stuff going on, and I knew there was something serious happening that wasn't, I didn't know why it was happening. I finally put two and two together and realized it was coming from this person, so-called fellow spiritual truth seeker. And yeah, and they were actually part of this big dark web. And I know that I was being targeted to literally, yeah, it's to take the soul from the human, just like Veronica. It's to take the soul and put us in that place of absolute fear and despair and hate, and lose our connection to love. Anyway, I cottoned on to what was happening, and when this was becoming really violent, I started communicating more to Yeshua, and to my higher self. I think just in general, I didn't really have a main focus, but I was seeing Yeshua. I had seen Yeshua a few times up until this point, didn't fully believe it, not even still at that time, but I couldn't really deny what I was seeing. I knew I wasn't making it up. So I started calling upon him and spirit to, okay, I don't know what the hell's gone on here. I certainly did not come here to create this. And I said, show me what I need to do. I literally said, this is freaking freaky stuff that I was dealing with. Like, trust me. But I had this level of respect for this energy because I felt like I knew the harm that it supposedly could do. But I knew in myself some weird way that I actually was courageous enough to stand up to this and face it, whatever that needed to happen. And so I was shown that a spiritual warfare had been literally opened on my property. There was thousands and thousands of dark entities coming and going through my property in lots of different portals that were opened up by this person. And this all had to get closed down. And this was in a time when my intuition was really only, I felt, coming online. So I needed such a level of trust. And I actually knew. I knew I was safe because there was one vision that came to me in one of my dreams, and I was actually standing on the hill on my property, and I had Yeshua beside me, and I have never felt such peace in my entire life in his light. And I knew in that moment when I woke the next day, I knew I was safe. I knew I was going to be protected. Even though I didn't know how I was going to do what I needed to do, I said, okay, I am willing to do whatever it takes to close this down. I said, I'm out of my depths. I don't know what I'm doing. So please bring me the people that can help me. Next thing, I got shown 2 people. I went, all right, I'm going to try it. I gave them a random call, didn't know this person. And I told them, and they were absolutely on board to help me. They became one anchor point for the portal that I was creating to close this down. Then there was another lady who also was a part of this process, and she was just like, yep, hands up, I'll do this. And so we all had a level of respect, knowing what we were doing, but I was actually in charge of making this happen. And so every day, it took such immense energy for me, one, to remain in the light. I had to play so much like loving music, but then the entities kept coming in to switch off my music so I couldn't bring in that energy. I had to actually leave my house throughout the day just to get a break from the toxicity there. I had to do that quite regularly, just to regain myself, connect with spirit, build my energy, and then I go back to my home. This kind of went over easily 6 months when it was getting real into the heavy stuff. And so it took every ounce of my trust that I was always protected, and that somehow I was going to be able to do this, and that I would be guided, and that's exactly what happened. And so I created a 3-day meditation that and I anchored 3 points for this meditation to be anchored between us 3 ladies who were just backing up what I was doing, holding space for me so that I could do what I needed to do to close this down. And over these 3 days at certain times, it all had a structure. It all kind of, I created this and unfolded this closing down of all of these portals. And this is when Goddess Kali came in. She became my main guide, with Yeshua felt like as a second guide. And with Kali, we literally, we gave these souls, this is important because I'm going to come back to this. I gave on the first day of the meditation, because it was over 3 days, spread out. I think it wasn't 3 days consecutively, but we gave these souls through meditation opportunity to redeem themselves. Then the second time we came into the meditation, we gave them again the opportunity for them to redeem themselves and return to the light. And some did actually. But the third day, if they had chosen not to leave, then they had to actually deal with Kali Ma, because she came in and she did the final, like literally the burning of the fires. Like it was full on. And by that third day, like I was nervous. I was like, but yet I knew I had this high level of trust that I was protected. And we went through and we did this, and I have never seen, so there was this, on the last day, on the last meditation, even the morning when this had to end on a certain time, on a certain date, and everything would be shut down and complete, and literally it was just a huge fire of Kali Ma coming in and taking everything out, transmuting absolutely everything. And those souls that chose not to go into the light, they had to deal with Kali, and so they went to their death in that fire, and so forth. So that was a freaking crazy experience that I went through. And I went through this experience in very early days on my path. And I remember even when that was completed, the euphoria that I felt within myself for several hours. I was in meditation, because I went into meditation after we had done all this at that final hour. And the euphoria, I had never experienced euphoria like this ever. And I knew I was actually being thanked and blessed from all of Spirit for partaking in my role to close that down, for having the freaking guts to do it in the first place when I was actually out of my depths. I wasn't fully trusting it, like that all of this was a thing. It was a crazy experience. So why has this come forward now? Why is this a part of what I was viewing with Epstein files, these videos with Veronica? Because this dark web is this. What is actually being dismantled now with all of these Epstein files and all of these people in positions of power that have abused their power for money, greed, and sex and everything else, and control, to put humanity into a state of fear constantly. And humanity has been choosing fear over love through many types of experiences, and COVID is your greatest example. The people like me that wasn't fazed by COVID and not choosing to follow what everyone else was doing, and then there was everyone else that was, I guess, in fear and choosing that. And so their choices were aligned in that regard by following the powers to be, that what they were saying was gospel. In actual fact, it's all a lie. So I had to see now, for this dark web that is now dismantling now, we have to see with our own eyes certain things, because it will trigger something within us where we're holding either pain, hurt, anger, frustration, just all of that toxic energy of blame and everything else, and punishment and retribution and all of this, kind of talk. There will be something in all of these stories that will trigger you. And it will trigger you in two ways. You will fall into the space of fear, or you will choose not to lose your connection to love. That is so important. And so I was showing these videos because the connection for me, the trigger for me, was the women being constantly abused by men, especially sexually. Does my freaking head in. And because that has been my experience. Wolves in sheep's clothing. And I could not understand how to have unconditional love for these people. And this is what I was asking the truth of. I was asking Yeshua and Metatron, actually, show me the truth. Because I need to understand this. If I'm going to keep walking this path of unconditional love, I need to know that I'm not that all of this is not true. And so I said, show me the truth. And so I had to see these videos because they had to trigger within me whatever it was that needed healing within me. Now, I've healed all of my stuff. Like, I have absolute compassion and forgiveness for all of my experiences. I absolutely do. And I have learnt through all of these experiences, when I really finally had my final initiations, you could say, through that patriarchal control energy, I know I am unconditional love. So I actually found the truth of who I am through those experiences. And so I had to actually then step back from what I was being triggered with everything unfolding before us now. What was being shown to me is that there's actually a higher level of unconditional love for me to reach, because I wasn't feeling unconditional love at this point for Epstein and for all the other male figures or even female figures that have just abused their power, especially sexually, with women and children, man. And so I needed to understand how was I able to have unconditional love for these atrocities, these people that have created these atrocities. I've come a long way on my spiritual path. And so I do get how important it is to have unconditional love. But I was actually, in my journey, this is just my journey, I was actually being initiated to another level of unconditional love. And this is why I said, show me the truth. What do I need to see here? And so I had that revelation this morning. I woke up this morning being reminded of my experience with this underworld, reminded of the experiences I've had over my life where people I have deemed hurt me, but they've been my greatest teachers, where I've always kept my connection to love. I have always been able to find compassion and forgiveness because I've learnt and grown through those experiences because I chose to. It's not easy when you're in the moments, but it takes time when you start digressing and gaining perspective from your experiences, not only yours, but the connection with the other person and where they're coming from, and that they too have been victims of violence somewhere. And when you can start to see what the stories are from both people being mirroring to each other, you can find a level of gratitude and compassion because you're like, I get it. And then you can see also how you have been this person somewhere in your life. And that's like, whoa, okay. Yeah, well, that wasn't really the true me. And when you know it's not the true you, that this other person, it's not the true them either. And then you can step back and go, okay, you know what? I can forgive. And so here I was trying to find far out another level of unconditional love, because that's who I am. I am a person, though, that with my unconditional love, I have this skill to be able to see at soul level people and their energy. And I always tune into the soul, because I know whatever they might be doing in front of me, to me, or for me, or to others, I know on a deep level that it's not the soul doing it. It's the shadow ego self doing those things. And this person might be a little bit asleep and not realizing, but if they can actually see through me being a mirror of what unconditional love is and compassion and forgiveness, then that gives them an opportunity to redeem themselves. That's freaking powerful. So how does this work then with these people that have done such atrocities, that are all the towers that are falling around us, all these profile people that are falling down and the truth's coming to light? How can we have unconditional love for them? We've got to remember, one, it's not our place to judge. That's a higher power. And so this video that I watched, that this lady that came forth and was bringing through all of this underworld information of what's actually been playing out for thousands of years, her information helped me understand a greater level, one, of what I was seeing. It helped me understand why I was seeing what I was seeing. It's because I actually have a gift that was channeled to me this morning. I actually have a gift of being able to, what I heard was, I am a warrior of light. I was actually able to walk into that toxicity of entities and hold my light, not be afraid of the fear, because I had to hold that for at least 6 months, not to be fall into fear with what was coming to me from these entities. And I had to keep holding that space of light, envisaging light, and holding just peace in my heart and trust, knowing, an absolute knowing that I would be protected. That absolute knowing of protection is what got me through that. I just knew, for some weird reason, I just knew in my heart I was protected, even though I didn't know how to deal with what I was dealing with. So how do we have, it's not my place to judge those people, because they will, as this lady said, okay, when people want redemption, yes, they will be granted redemption. Everyone gets that chance to redeem themselves and come back to the truth of who they are. But they will too, on the other side, face the council of light, the higher powers, creation of God, to be and face that judgment. Okay, it's not punishment, it's not retribution. It's guiding this soul to be able to come back into the truth of who they are. And yes, there will be some level of karmic repercussions that I believe that's being communicated to me. And so I felt, in some sense, yes, I don't need to be the person to judge, to hold hate, to blame, to condemn, to punish, to throw stones, whatever it might be. I need to be that person that can offer redemption through example of compassion, love, and forgiveness, to reflect that. It starts with me, and it started with me by actually seeing what actually triggered me, that brought up my own stuff. But what was really important that came out of that is I was asking the question, how can I have unconditional love for these people? Because I'm actually finding that a bit tricky. I literally said that to Yeshua. I said, I know the truth of who I am. So if I'm unconditional love, how am I meant to find unconditional love for these people? I know I've done it, but not to this level. And then I reflected. I was shown, just like me, when we feel we're a victim, These victims of these perpetrators, what did they all have in common? These women that are speaking out now. It's compassion, forgiveness, and they have remained connected to love. If they can forgive these perpetrators who've done far worse than what I've experienced, then who am I to sit there in judgment and blame? Who am I? That's not my role. That only creates suffering for me. By holding on to anger, by holding on to hate, blame, and whatever else. No, it's not correct what has been done. And this is what was shown to me in my ability to close down these portals that were opened on my property. And I closed it down with Yeshua and Goddess Kali and a million of light workers. I've never seen so many light beings surrounding my property and beyond. Was phenomenal. I did not make that stuff up. I did not understand the level of that until this morning. I've lost my point that I was getting to. So if these women can actually hold compassion and forgiveness, I know that's where I was going, and give the opportunity for people who have created the atrocities, who have been the perpetrators, for redemption, and to allow higher powers to serve the justice that will come, then every soul has that right, because at the end of the day, every single one of us have been tricked into these dark webs of fear, some at deeper levels than others. And so this is my message today. This morning when I woke, I realized, having been shown all of these past experiences and what happened, Spirit said, you were in service. And I asked, why put me in harm's way? They said, because I'm a warrior of light. I was able to enter into that space with courage, with absolute desire for truth and justice. I had so much trust that I was protected. And together as a team, we did it. And that is what came to me this morning. I didn't realize the level of soul that had been operating already in my early stages of awakening. My soul knew this stuff. It's probably done it in previous lifetimes. And so if these women have gone through the worst atrocities, can find compassion and forgiveness for their perpetrators, to offer them the chance for redemption, then every single one of us have to face whatever it is that is the trigger through these experiences, because it's different for all of us. We all will be triggered in different ways in relation to our soul journey. Rather than connect to fear, we must connect to love and remain in compassion and forgiveness. Ultimately, because when we can do that, because what happens then is the only way we can actually break down these dark webs. I've got Raven in the background there. The only way we can do this is individually, giving these souls, because they're still a soul, even though they've kind of lost it. It feels like they lost their soul. There's got to be a light still somewhere deep in there. When we offer them redemption and when they choose to follow the light, this is how we're dismantling this dark web. And that is the key right there. And it's up to us each individually to do our part of what that looks like, of where we're being triggered, to face it and remain connected to love, and always offer compassion and forgiveness through those experiences. So I just wanted to share that today. I hope I've brought my message across that I wanted to bring across today. And so this weekend I've been actually, I feel like I'm going through a heart activation. My heart is, it's going through some stuff. I can feel it. I've been nauseated. I've been, all sorts of stuff physically. Tired as well. Cried lots. It's all part of the journey, but the tears are not. The tears are actually just revelation. It's just, whoa, it's just phenomenal, this journey. So I hope this finds whoever it needs to find it, to open your eyes to what is actually going on around us. You don't need to dive into all of this darkness, but there might be something for you to see so that you can change it within you and find the compassion and the forgiveness that is needed. So I'll end on this note, and thank you for listening. Namaste.